Next, sports columnist Dick Young with the final out. And a look at the NFL through the camera's eye when Stroh's Circle of Sports continues.
He walked in his first major league at bat, then ran to first. And in the ensuing 23 seasons, Peter Edward Rose has run all the way to the brink of breaking one of baseball's most cherished records, the all-time hit mark of 4,191 set by the immortal Ty Cobb. Already, Rose has played in more games and won more than any man in history, not to mention 16 All-Star appearances and playing in 34 World Series games. And today, at 44, having revitalized the Reds as their manager and spiritual leader, Rose is the happiest senior citizen any of us have seen since on Golden Pond. And it is that joy, the love he's given to baseball, that makes him so unique. First Cobb, then immortality. The remarkable Pete Rose, our Stroh's salute. Certainly, Pete Rose is a striking contrast to the so-called modern athlete, whom many view as spoiled. With his views on the subject, here is the syndicated sports columnist of the New York Post, Dick Young, with the final out.
I really feel sorry for the modern-day athlete, particularly the ball player. Now, that may sound strange because of all the money they're making, but they're not having the fun that the older ball player used to have. That's one thing I've noticed. Great wealth seems to kill fun in life. I can remember the old teams, particularly the Brooklyn Dodgers, whom I covered at the start of my career. They always were enjoying life. They would be laughing. They'd be going out to dinner together. There was a tremendous camaraderie on that ball club. Today, ball players don't smile as much. They don't laugh as much. They seem to be afraid that they're going to lose that great money that they're making. And the fear of that is what weighs heavily upon them. I can remember Pete Rose saying just a few years ago, it's not as much fun as it used to be. And I said, Pete, you know why it's not as much fun as it used to be? You're making a lot of money now, and you're thinking about that money. You never thought about money. You used to think about only the game. And he disagreed with me. He says, no, I'm still enjoying this game. I'm still putting out and hustling, and I love it. And I said, yes, but subconsciously, you're thinking of the day when that money won't be there any longer. And that's what's killing your fun.
With the pro football season now underway, we went to one of the outstanding photographers who takes many of the photos you see every week in the NFL game programs. So here is photographer Peter Reed Miller, through the camera's eye.
My name is Peter Reed Miller. I've been photographing pro football for the NFL magazines Pro and Game Day and for Sports Illustrated since 1973. Before that, I covered college football for USC. Although I photographed many sports, pro football is far and away my favorite. I like the action, I like the people of the game, and I like the fact that photographers are not restricted to specific positions. We're all down on the sidelines, and with the exception of the bench area, we can photograph from wherever we want. So, in a way, a photographer covering football faces some of the same problems as a player or a coach. Consider the game situation, anticipate what's going to happen next, position yourself accordingly, and be ready for the unexpected. This is Denver's Mile High Stadium, September 1977. The season the Broncos went 12-2 and played in the Super Bowl. It's a beautiful October day in Colorado, opening kickoff against the Raiders. Each fan held up an orange card. It was an electric moment. Some players, like the Raiders running back Marcus Allen, seem to have a style and grace that makes them naturally photogenic. Another player with that great quality is Detroit's Billy Sims. Here he glides to one of the 3 touchdowns he scored against the Rams in his NFL debut in 1980. Although this photograph of Eric Dickerson was taken in the studio and not on the field, I still feel that it captures the concentration and intensity that characterize Eric's running. An aspect of football that has always fascinated me is the element of man-to-man competition. In this photograph, Earl Campbell and Nolan Cromwell go one-on-one, two of the best in the game in their respective positions. Here, Russ Washington of the Chargers tries to get the upper hand on Jim Stuckey of the 49ers. Despite the best efforts of two Seattle Seahawks defenders, All-Pro receiver Cliff Branch brings down a reception. This photo was taken in the Los Angeles Coliseum during the 1984 preseason. Although preseason games rarely produce memorable action photos, the late summer evenings can provide some fascinating lighting. Sometimes a wider view can reveal a different aspect of the game. This photo, taken from high in the end zone in San Diego Stadium, shows the Charger offensive line setting up pass protection for quarterback Dan Fouts. 49ers practice facility in Redwood City, California, one of the last practices before O.J.'s retirement. I know this was a very bittersweet time for O.J., and I feel this shot captures that mood. This is Hall of Fame defensive tackle Merlin Olsen, one of the greatest players I've ever photographed on the field and one of the greatest people I've ever worked with off the field. Merlin was one of the original fearsome foursome, and even in 1976, his last year in the NFL, he was still a terrifying sight to behold from the viewpoint of a quarterback. This is a receiver's eye view of Brian Sipe. He's just released the pass and he's about to get hit. I like the quality of imminent disaster in this photo. 1977 Rams-Vikings divisional playoffs. The worst conditions I've ever photographed a game under in Los Angeles. By the fourth quarter, the only way you could tell the teams apart was by their helmets. This is Coach Tom Flores after the Raiders' victory in Super Bowl 18. To make this picture, I slipped into the Raiders' locker room with about a minute remaining in the game. I wanted to be in a position to capture their enthusiasm the moment they came off the field. This photo is more suggestive of war than sport. It reminds me that football is a game, but it's played for keeps. I think most people see pro football in a very standardized format. Every Sunday on the screen, the teams are different, the scores are different, but the viewpoint remains the same. There's very little of the sense of a specific game, of the feeling of the moment. In my photographs, I've tried to capture that sense of the game, of what it was really like to be there.
Next up, we'll see what's on Beano's clipboard when Stroh's Circle of Sports continues.
Another Stroh's and a Stroh light. So, with 30 seconds left, Monroe hits from the corner. But Goodrich comes right back with a 15-footer off the glass. Now, the Pearl gets the ball again with only 3 seconds left. 2, 1. You missed. So did the Pearl.
Stroh's and Stroh Light. Fire brewed for great taste and good times.
This weekend, I'm seeing Rhonda. I got the Camaro. I'm seeing the folks, so I got a Chevette. My sister's in town this weekend with their kids.
You need a big car.
For just the right car, ask National for their low weekend rates, starting as low as $19.95 a day for an economy car like the Chevy Chevette.
For my class reunion, the Cadillac.
Weekends it pays to get national attention.
My, said the butterfly.
What you say?
Have you heard the news?
No, tell me about it.
I've got the blues.
Deliver.
The Levi's 501 blues.
They straight to fit.
That's it, and they're right beside.
Do tell.
My personal life. The Levi's 501 blues.
Lucky fly.
Ain't I?
My.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Do you know what kills your muffler? Rust. Rust that can start on the inside and eat its way through. Now there's a muffler that helps stop this problem. The new Walker Advantage with a revolutionary rust inhibitor, Absorbite, that actually absorbs internal moisture. The inside of this muffler was not protected with Absorbite. This muffler was. You can see the difference. The new Walker Advantage. It puts rust at a disadvantage.
Warranted at service outlets and auto parts stores where you see this sign.
Before we say goodnight, let's check in once again with Beano Cook and see what's on his clipboard.
The college football season has finally arrived. That's the good news. I also have some bad news. The hype for the Heisman Trophy is going to get worse. See, it started last January, so you know it's going to get worse. It started a few seconds after the end of the Orange Bowl. I got releases, and so did everybody else. Everybody's a candidate in January and February. Candidate. I guess it's the way it is when you run for president in 1988. Everybody's a candidate. I don't know. I liked it years ago. You didn't give much thought to the Heisman Trophy until late October, early November. And you said, gee, who's having a good year? I liked 1962, Terry Baker. You know why? Single-wing tailback, a dying breed, like an honest politician. But still, you didn't give much thought to it, and here it was. You voted, and that was it. It wasn't a big thing. Now, in the middle 60s, I think, I'm not sure, the hype started. Slick brochures, telegrams, messages in the sky. Boy, and it's getting worse. Booster clubs are involved now. You get phone calls at home. It's terrible. My favorite story concerns Paul Hornung back in 1956. That's when you could buy a candy bar for a nickel, and it was all chocolate. That's how long ago it was. Charlie Callahan told his student assistant, Joe Pride, get Paul Hornung for me. He got Paul Hornung about 15 minutes later. He took Paul back to the office, walked into Charlie Callahan's office, and Charlie was on the phone. Charlie put the phone down for a second, covered it up, and said to Paul, it's your mother, Paul. Tell her you just won the Heisman Trophy. I don't know. That story is romantic to me. There was no mass media, no wires, no planes, no nothing. Just Joe Bride, Paul Hornung, and Charlie Callahan. Long time ago, when college football was less commercial and life was less complicated.
Well, that concludes our show for tonight, the final in our initial series. All of us connected with Stroh's Circle of Sports want to thank you for joining us. We hope we've been able to make your summer just a little more enjoyable. We've tried to hold true to our promise to bring you stories behind the scenes and the people who make the headlines. To all of those people who have been part of Stroh's Circle of Sports, our thanks. And a personal thank you from me to David Martin of Stroh's for making this show a reality. So from all of us, I'm Robert Conrad saying good night. We look forward to seeing you in the future on Stroh's Circle of Sports. And let Uncle Bob tell you one thing. I've always lived my life like this. You keep your chin down, your hands up, and keep your butt off the canvas, and you'll do all right. Good night.
Stroh's Circle of Sports has been brought to you by the Stroh Brewery Company, makers of Stroh's and Stroh Light, fire brewed for great taste and good times. By National Car Rental, you deserve national attention.
Be sure to tune in this Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern for a special WrestleMania event, the Slam Challenge between Andre the Giant and Big John Studd on Prime Time Wrestling. And tomorrow night at 8 Eastern, don't miss Harvey Korman and Buddy Hackett in Bud and Lou, the story of Abbott and Costello on the USA Premiere event.